Before I even start reviewing this is from one of those years when Marvel had the repulsive amount of adverts in their comics. The days when the comic is 65% adverts, and it actually reads fucking terribly because of that interference. Nearly every page is followed by an advert, so you just didn't get much momentum going when you're reading it. It is a shame to have to say that, because this is one of my favourite miniseries ever published. This is Drax the Destructoid. This was a random series they did starring a character who hadn't done much of anything since the early 90s. This series revamps him and gives birth to the more well-known version of Drax, with the tribal tats and the knives. But regardless of its significance, this is a tremendous 4-issue story. This is written by Kevin Giffen, who revamped most of Marvel's cosmic characters in the mid-2000s. And he gave us the versions we all know from the movies. And he gets very little credit or acknowledgement for it. We will come back to me calling the artist of this book a hack fraud in a bit. But we begin with Drax being a prisoner. He has been arrested by the space police for killing things. And he and some other prisoners are being transported to space prison. In fact, the same space prison that was introduced in Kevin Giffen's funniest series. I'll look at that one day. The other prisoners, who are characters that are featured in the rest of this miniseries, they include Pybok, the power-skrull, the Mr. Blobby brothers, and Lobo. There is a backstory and a behind-the-scenes thing with this character, and how he was meant to be introduced in Defenders in the 70s, but then he got took to DC and became a very well-known character at DC. And then Kevin Giffen reintroduced this character at Marvel in the 90s. His face is obscured for the entire story here, which I quite like as a trick. And at this point, we still have the 90s big dumb Drax. And you know, I didn't think about a character much when I just admit defeat and call them by their real name, like Pybok, the power-skrull. The prison transport, it gives out and it crashes towards Earth, which is where we live. The artist for this is Milhouse Breitweiser, and I used to think that he was a good artist. I still think that his art is good. Not so much in this series, but definitely in the Captain America Patriot Man series. But Milhouse Breitweiser, he is an unprofessional con artist. He doesn't care about you or you ever getting his product, if instead he can get more money for it elsewhere. Slime. And he won't refund you unless you kick up a fuss about him refunding you. The art is fine for this series and good in some bits, but I will not be talking about it again. He doesn't deserve the consideration. Let's just go into Alaska and be introduced to our Earth-based point of view character, and it is this girl with the pink beanie. She is called Cammy, and I always look at this series and think how nowadays Marvel cannot write teenage characters, especially teenage girls, to save their life. But only 15 years ago, there was an odd white man who wrote a very believable teenage girl. It's as if hiring people from Twitter and Tumblr gets them nothing, and the real talent is proven writers. Cammy is not a particularly layered character. She is kinda the stock Ramona Flowers sort. A bit socially obtuse, a bit alternative for no reason, a bit rebellious for the sake of it, and a bit of a dickhead. And obviously the prison ship is going to crash land in Alaska, and this bit is maybe the sloppiest writing in the miniseries. The only survivors of this crash are, by chance, the 5 prisoners we were introduced to: Drax, Lobo, Pybok, and the Mr. Blobby brothers. Some more obscuring Lobo's face there. The idea, I think, is that they are not showing his face because he basically is just the DC character with a different name. If Kevin Giffen never left Defenders and went to work at DC, the DC character would have been a Defenders character instead of a DC character. And so this is that character that he would have introduced. And I'm spending far too much time trying to explain the Lobo and lunatic thing. More adverts because we need them. And you might now notice why the advert thing is an extra problem for me. What little prep I do for these videos is just a page breakdown telling us what is on each page, so I know when is the right time to bring something up. And in the cases of these comics from 2005, I would call it the Adpocalypse if that wasn't already a name for a YouTube thing. There are pages like this where I have already kind of said what I need to say. The prisoners, the aliens, they have arrived on Earth. I have established who they are. I didn't have much to say. And likewise, what more can I say about Cammy? The adverts on every page make the comics appear much more decompressed and slow than they are, and then also make it difficult to go page by page summarising what is happening. So then I start having to skip pages to get to the meat, which is insulting to this terrific story. the aliens decide to take over the Alaskan town that they have landed in, but Drax, he is the odd one out because he is not evil, but he is big and dumb, and so he starts fighting them. I did find something absent here, and that is that even in his dumb phase, Drax was still capable of recognising stuff to do with Thanius. His mission was to destroy Thanius, and I believe big dumb Drax, even he would be able to recognise that the Mr. Blobby brothers were two of Thanius's main agents in the past. Likewise, the Mr. Blobby brothers should recognise Drax, having fought him before, and they should recognise him as a threat because of their past ties to Thanius. And all that could have been used to justify this fighting, more than simply saying Drax is a bit dense. In an otherwise perfect miniseries, it is a shame to see a fight between Drax and the Mr. Blobby brothers, and it to be written from the perspective that these are two things that have never come into contact before, or who have no connection between them. I'm not asking for a total rewrite. I mean, just a line of dialogue somewhere with one of the Mr. Blobby brothers maybe saying that Drax is a lot stronger than the last time they faced them. Or maybe Drax saying that he does actually remember them as he punches them here. But let's get back to Cammy. We're doing a little bit of an E.T. or Stranger Things type story where we have the small town kid who ends up getting involved in this larger than life alien encounter. I've not actually seen E.T. or Stranger Things. No interest in them. This is better than them. I recommend this with the highest possible effect. But, and this is a big but, read it in trade or read it on digital. Single issue is trying its hardest to ruin a really brilliant miniseries. If you have no interest in Drax the Destructoid, still give it a chance. It might surprise you. It's really well written. It's really exciting and good. And it is just fantastic. One of my favourite miniseries ever published. No caveat whatsoever to that claim. It is a bit of an understated masterpiece. 7 thumbs up.